That is actually perfect. We are live. We are, although we are live, we are lifeless and wordless, or speechless, maybe. It's a better way to describe it. But the show must go on, as they say. The show must go on. So, it's come to my attention that Mr. Flex is unaware of the most recent Dwight Howard debacle. The newest Dwightmare, as they say. I miss when Dwight Howard was when they were just deciding whether or not they were going to trade him or if he was going to re-sign in Orlando, and that became known as the Dwightmare.
Stan Van Gundy.
Oh yes, and then they had that awkward press conference or interview, whatever. It was a simpler time. I miss those times, and now the Dwightmare is much more complicated and much more confusing, to be honest. So you are completely unaware of the Dwight Howard news of the day, I assume.
Yes. Completely
Okay.
unaware. I'm here.
Okay. So Dwight Howard apparently is gay. Apparently is he being sued? Let's check. Let me get this right, because I don't know if he's being sued or if he's just being accused. So here's the headline. Dwight Howard is being accused of trying to force a man into a threesome with him and another man dressed as a woman. And there were some, I believe these are Instagram screenshots or Instagram DM screenshots that were shared. And I'm always a little bit dubious on, the authenticity of any kind of screenshots where people are sharing a conversation. Because they always look altered. I don't know, like, to me, like, I feel like my iMessages, everything is very crisp. And whenever I see a screenshot that's been shared or somebody else's conversation,
like a screenshot of a screenshot.
Yeah,
of
it always
somebody
looks
who took
blurry
a picture.
in some areas.
Yeah.
It always looks like did they cut this out? Did they paste this on? But I will give you what they have so far. So there's a conversation taking place between Dwight Howard and, I'm assuming, Dwight Howard and a man. And I don't want to go through all of the conversation, but there is he says, "What up, sexy?" Dwight Howard says, "I'm thinking about that meat." I guess referring to the man's package. And he says, in return, he says, "Are you trouble?" He says, "Oops, I want it." And then the man says, "When?" And Dwight Howard replies, "Now." So I'll send you the the images of these screen grabs.
I almost want to say that I just, like, a couple hours ago, I was scrolling and I saw a screenshot of texts.
Yes.
And I didn't stop to even, like.
So I guess these are texts. I guess these are texts. They're not DMs. I guess they're iMessages or something. I can't even.
Okay,
really,
then.
This shit just looks different than my message
I
box.
don't know. I don't know if that happens to be the case, but just that, whatever that line of questioning that you just repeated right there, it sounds like one of the texts that I saw.
Okay.
Or, like, at least led to one of, like, the main text that I saw, and it was iMessages.
Yes. So, but the initial thing that I kept seeing, I saw this. I woke up to this news. To be honest with you, I woke up and I think I saw. I know that Cam and Mace's show. They posted. I think they posted on Instagram. They posted the screenshots.
Of course.
And of course they did. And if it was pause and this and that. And I kind of feel bad for the guy, man. Like, I don't know what went on. It doesn't. Like, here's the thing: if Dwight Howard was in some type of way forcing or being some type of like, sexually abusive to this man, then that's wrong and that's a problem. But it just seems like he just got caught being a gay freak. And like,
honestly, I mean, I'm not.
Who among
I'm not
us
really
has-
surprised. Yeah. Who among us have not found ourselves in a similar
Who
situation?
among us has not said in response to somebody saying, "What are you doing?" Who among us has not replied thinking about that meat? I mean, who among us? I mean, he who throws stones should not be living in a glass house. No, but seriously,
Honestly,
though, like,
I may have texted that when dinner was ready a couple nights ago.
like my thing is just like people like getting mad at Dwight Howard for
What for what?
it just seems like he's just getting roasted on everywhere, but like just getting roasted for being gay. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's
like
it's
listen,
so stupid. Like honestly, like I'm like I didn't hear about any of this, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but like I'm not shocked by this. Like I don't know what the situation, the assault allegations or any of that stuff is, but I'm not surprised if he is gay at all. Like I don't know why. I don't know why, but it just doesn't surprise me.
The same reason I'm not surprised. Just because he has a vibe about him.
Yeah, but I can't explain. I can't explain that.
No, neither can I. All I can explain. Well, the only way I can explain is by saying he has a vibe about him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I can't really explain, but I'm just not surprised.
Yeah.
And if it's just like roasting him, like, yo, what? Come on, man. We gotta grow up. Like, what do we do? What are we doing? It's like, yo, all right, he's a freak. Like, would you guys be celebrating it if that was like a woman who was doing that?
Yeah, what? I don't know, man. And this is the same reason why I take a little bit of an issue with the over pausing of everything, because it's like,
yeah,
when I first saw this shit, I think the first place I saw it with the screenshots of the texts was on the Cameron and Mace It Is What It Is Instagram.
Of course.
And I'm just like, why does it gotta be like, if he did something illegal or something fucked up to this dude, personally, whatever, then that's wrong. But if his only offense is that he's not openly gay and he's trying to get his swerve on low key without anybody knowing and not anybody's business, like I don't see what's wrong with that. Like, do you?
Well, like on top of that, like, pause. Like the whole shit like just goes back to like what we were saying. It's like, yeah, like, okay, it's not. It is so it is homophobic because that's what you're doing. Like with that issue, but like with the Dwight Howard shit, is like, yo, he's just a. There's other ways to make fun of him. Like
there's so
you could
many
just make
ways
fun
to
of
make
it.
fun
He
of
was
him.
he was just like, oh, man's was chasing that meat. Like OD, like that's funny enough. Like Dwight Howard having to wait. So it was Dwight Howard texting that he was thinking about that meat.
Yeah, he was the one that was thinking about the meat.
That's funny enough as it is.
Exactly.
Like you know what I'm saying? It's like you could easily Photoshop like Dwight Howard looking at a menu at a restaurant, and then the picture that he's looking at is a big ass dick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things you could do that are funny that don't have to cross into the homophobic like sphere. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like, yo, like, oh, yo, like gay isn't a joke. Gay isn't a joke or like funny.
Yeah.
Like him wanting the D, that's funny. That to me is funny.
Yeah, and
Like
to
the
me,
other
honestly,
shit.
bro, like I sympathize with the dude. Like, listen, I can't imagine if I don't know too much about Dwight Howard's background. I do remember when he first came into the league that he was on some "I'm waiting till I'm married" type super religious shit. Do you remember that?
Mm.
When Dwight Howard
Oh,
first came into the league as a young dude, number one overall pick, I remember him being on some
I,
very, very Christian, I'm waiting till marry, that he was a virgin type shit. Like, I remember that being a thing.
I think I vaguely remember. I vaguely remember some situation like that. I just don't want to like
Yeah, no, I feel you. But
like in
either
my head. I
way,
don't want to contribute. Like assign
like
that to him.
what we were kind of referencing without referencing is like it doesn't surprise you, right? I think it doesn't surprise us because he has a vibe about him. He doesn't have like I look at Dwight Howard just from a basketball standpoint, and part of me is like he always seemed like a dude that like although he played a big man and he was he played that was his position. He was never really a tough enforcer, like he always was kind of like goofy, silly, he never really gave off any type of like, for lack of a better term, like super masculine alpha type of a dude. Like he never
Yeah,
he
especially for a guy who tried to take that the Superman persona and run with it. It didn't really.
yeah, didn't
It
really
didn't
go
really.
nowhere.
Yeah, it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, and I part of me looks at it like would it surprise me if Dwight Howard's been a closeted gay guy all the times for all the years that we've known him, and he's been in the in the public eye. We've known him as a collective public. Would it surprise me if he's been a closeted gay dude? No, it wouldn't. And if he is a closeted gay dude, I can't imagine that it's been easy to be in the NBA for a decade and be hiding the fact that you are gay. Like I don't. I'm sure
You
that
know how
that's
big
not
that
fun.
closet needs to be.
For real, exactly. So I'm
He got
like,
to go
yo,
in
like
sideways with them shoulders, with those defensive shoulders.
for real though, and I'm like, yo, but my initial reaction is not like I read this like this is the caption that they put on the post for the text messages and shit. Hey, yo, whoa, pause, Dwight Howard. This news is very disturbing. You on some weird shit, yo, for real. And I'm just kind of like, what?
It's not corny.
He's on some weird shit or he's on some gay shit?
He's just
Like,
gay. He's just gay.
like he just wants some dick. Like, let him have some dick. Like, well, I don't understand why it's weird, why it's a problem.
it's not getting in the way of. It's not getting in the way of anything you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a little unfortunate that everybody
It's
is
like
taking glee and in the fact that Dwight Howard's deep dark secret of wanting to think about and see meat has now been exposed. And I just imagine that if that's a secret that you were hiding and it came out, like I'm sure this is not a fun time for Dwight Howard. And again, if he did some fucked up shit to this dude, then that's a different story. But that's a separate conversation. I'm just talking about the fact that everybody's having such a good time pointing and laughing at Dwight Howard like, look, you're gay. Like, okay, he's gay. So what?
Yeah, I mean, I would find. I think that he probably has enough. Like that probably rolls off his defensive shoulders easier than having to squeeze in one of those closets in China.
Yo,
Can you imagine how small those are?
is he even? Where is he at in his basketball career? Was he on
I think
Was he
he's
on
in
a
China.
roster last year? You're being for real? Like he's playing in China? Maybe he is.
Yeah, I think so. I is that
And I
not
remember
common
he had the
knowledge?
thing where Kobe was like he had a little beef with Kobe when he was with the Lakers. His Kobe said he was soft, and like I could just see him being like a little sugary, whatever. But like I
Yeah.
don't know, man.
He
The fact
he
that
was probably mad that it was only a little beef. He probably wanted a big beef.
he wanted to see that meat.
You see how easy it is?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I
The
don't know why.
gay joke Yeah, yeah, like yo, shut up. Like yeah, it's such like a low hanging fruit. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's just corny. Like
Stephen Harper is the guy's name, apparently. I'm
ooh,
reading this that apparently the guy's name is Stephen Harper.
ooh.
But anyway, I I feel bad for the guy. Everybody's having a joke at his expense, and really, making
And you
fun
know
of
what's
him for
funny?
being gay. I don't know.
And you know what it's funny to me, like um it kind of goes back to like like what we mentioned about like the people on the radio and the TV that make fun of all of these players.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard could grab your arms, each one on each side, and yank them out of their sockets
Your word. And beat you
and
with him.
put you and beat you senselessly and put you in the dirt. So what is this like this faux masculinity? Like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's like yo that that's like these people are confusing masculinity with sexual preference and tough guy talk. As soft as Dwight Howard is in my eyes, just in general, he could stomp me out to smithereens. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's so like it's so beyond me that like yo like if that's like the level that we're going to when if we're measuring masculinity that way, the ultimate masculinity is like in the medieval days or the primal days is where like okay, I'm gonna get a club, you're gonna get one, and we're gonna go one-on-one. And let me tell you something, I do not like my chances, or I wouldn't like anybody's chances, be that Cameron, be that Mace, be that whoever the hell else that thinks all this funny side shit talk is popping. I don't like nobody's chances against that wingspan and a big ass Babe Ruth like
Or not a
red
Babe
oak
Ruth, your
fucking.
man with the barbed wire bat.
Oh yeah, Michael Clemens. Let's
Yeah.
not go on that. I like his chances though. I like Michael Clemens' chances against Dwight Howard, but there's not many that I would take against Dwight Howard in a one-on-one
Yeah.
bash off.
Yeah, I mean, if he would have instead of him saying I'm thinking about that meat, if he would have said I'm thinking about that pussy or I'm thinking about those titties, we would all there'd be nothing to laugh at. Nobody would make a
Yeah,
joke about it. It wouldn't be weird. It would
yeah,
just be it would be NBA player. That would be
yeah.
it.
And yeah, exactly. So it's basically everybody's trying to disguise homophobia with that.
Yeah. Typical stuff. But we hope everybody
Oh my God.
finds themselves all right throughout these trying times for Dwight Howard, the new Dwight, the 2023 Dwight Mayer. Unfortunately, hopefully he can survive it. But let's take a little break, and when we come back, I have
Got a
figured
refill.
out who is responsible for Saquon Barkley's contract dispute, and I'm going to expose it right here today.
I need it.
Why isn't this going?
So we're not live. You're not recording.
And we are back. Let me unmute this thing. Okay, we are back. So, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley does not appear to be getting his desired contract, and I know who we can blame for this. Now, before I explain why, who's to blame and why, I'm gonna give you some numbers. So I shared with you that video of Tiki Barber talking about his final salary before he left the league, which blew
wild.
my mind.
Well, yeah, because he's been gone. How long has he been out of the league?
16 years. His last year was 2006.
That. I just in general, I didn't think that running backs were getting paid that much.
Back
and
then,
just like consider what that is.
Well, so let me finish setting this up. Let me give you all these numbers.
All right, go ahead.
So, the video where Tiki Barber talks about Dalvin Cook, and he was talking about the Saquon Barkley contract dispute. He was talking about how Dalvin Cook is 27 years old, one of the top. I think people can agree he's one of the where you rank him as far as all the running backs in the league is up to you, but I think people would agree that he's definitely one of the top 10 at minimum, maybe even top 5, but he's definitely an upper echelon running back within what you would think is a young age, 27 years old. And he said that, and he made the point to say that what he's expected to get paid somewhere between $4.5 million and $5 million for this upcoming season. Tiki Barber made $4.8 million in his final season as a pro in 2006, 16 years ago.
What year was he in on that? How many years did Tiki Barber play?
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
But
keep going.
That prompted me, because I was so blown away by that number, to think about it just blew me away, because I mean, anytime you hear about pretty much in any sport, any players, it's pretty universal that whenever you hear older players, whether their career was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, anytime you hear any players who have been retired for, at least 5-10 years, they're always referring to how they would have made more money if they were playing now. You know what I mean? You always look at the arc as always constantly going up, and whenever there are older players discussing the contracts, they always made less than the current player. So when he said he made the same amount in his final season that Dalvin Cook is going to make, or is expected to make this year, that just blew my mind. That has to be the only place in sports where that could be the case, where some player who played the same position 15 years ago is making the same as a player now. So that it made me look into some numbers, crazy, and look into some contracts, and to kind of get a better picture of the evolution of not only all the player salaries in the NFL, but specifically the evolution of the running back salary and the evolution of that salary in comparison to the other position salaries. So,
hold on.
Go ahead.
I found that the Tiki Barber was very good in his final year, by the way.
You said he was
over
very
16.
good?
He was very good. I was not. I
think he had 200 yards in his last game.
He was at over 1,600 yards on his final season, which is wild. And I'm glad I did that, because I was about to criticize or diminish his skill, his level of skill, because I don't remember him being that good at the end, but right before he retired, because to me that just seems like that's almost like Barry Sanders level, that it's like he almost went out on top.
No, I remember it being viewed as him retiring early, and I remember him being very good in his last year because there was that whole thing about, oh, he retired a year too early because they won the Super Bowl the next year, and they were saying that, you know, he should have stayed, but he left because he wanted to become a media superstar and he wanted to be on the Today Show and all this other shit.
Did that work out for him, by the way? You think it worked out for him?
He's hosting afternoons on WFEN radio, so I would say no.
Yeah. Do you think maybe that maybe maybe not maybe not go like planting your flag against Eli Manning? You think it was probably better for him to kind of stick around for a little bit instead of like dying on that hill?
I mean, I don't know. I know that he was going through. Well, I don't know, but I know I've heard that he was going through some off the field situations. He ended up getting divorced. I don't know. I don't know if he didn't think Eli was very good. I think he had some things on in his decision making process that had more to do with more than just football.
So basically, this is like, you know, those Netflix shows that they have now. I don't know if they have them for kids. I don't know if they have them for adults, where there's like there's a stoppage and then you could pick A or B, and then it keeps going based on what you choose.
Yeah.
So basically, it was Tiki Barber or Michael Strahan, and it seems that you were supposed to hit Michael Strahan at every turn.
Yeah, I mean, I always think about that every time I see Michael Strahan and how what his post football career has become is basically, it seems as though it's everything that Tiki Barber wanted and failed at. But yeah, Tiki Barber was very good in his final year, and to be honest with you, how good he was doesn't even really matter because I think that he was in the final year of a multi-year deal when he made that 4.8 in his last year. But the idea that he made the same amount in his last year that Dalvin Cook is expected to make this year is crazy to me.
It's crazy.
So I went to look at some of the salaries. Now let me put you onto this. So in 2008, the highest paid quarterback, and all of this information is via Spotrac. In the year 2000, highest paid quarterback was Troy Aikman, making $9.5 million. The highest paid running back was Marshall Faulk, making $6.5 million. So only a $3 million.
So 40%.
Yeah.
Well, let's go 40% just for percentage's sake.
Okay, but check this out. And then, obviously, this coming year will be the highest pay will be Christian McCaffrey at 16. In 2000, the 10th highest paid quarterback was Doug Flutie, making $5.4 million. The 10th highest paid running back was Jamal Lewis, making 2.3. But the reason why I bring up the 10th highest paid running backs is because look at the evolution of the 10th highest paid running back from. Go ahead.
And that was on his rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken, because he was.
Yes, that was his rookie deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they didn't have the wage scale back then.
The scale, yes, but like still, he wasn't like. If I'm not mistaken, Jamal Lewis was a pick in the 20s when he came out of Tennessee. I don't think it's not like he was like number 1 overall where he could do that holdout thing or whatever.
Yeah, but that just goes to show you how much more the running backs were valued back then. But check this out. So, 10th highest paid running back, Jamal Lewis, $2.3 million. In 2008, it was Marion Barber, 6.4. 2023, Miles Sanders, 6.3.
The 10th highest?
10th highest. those same years for quarterbacks. Like I said, Doug Flutie, 5.4, 2008, Brett Favre, 10.1, and then this coming year, your favorite and mine, Daniel Jones, 40 mil.
He's the 10th highest paid.
So just look at that arc compared to the flat line of the running back.
So you said Miles Sanders is at what? What was that number again?
6.3.
6.3, and he's the 10th.
He's the 10th.
So that discrepancy has gone. So
now hold on. Let me continue. So what I attribute largely to the investment being pulled back in running backs. Obviously, there's a lot of factors, and people will talk about the way the game is changing and the evolution of the game, and there are more pass-heavy offenses, and people don't run the ball as much. But why is that, right? Why has the quarterback become so much more valuable? And the person to blame is Tom Brady. For a couple of reasons. Not just because he's great. Obviously, I think Tom Brady is great. But the reason why I say the person to blame is Tom Brady is because of 2008, him getting his knee blown out, and then them putting so much more of an emphasis on protecting the quarterbacks. Really enforcing a rule that people say that there's a Tom Brady rule that you can't roll into the quarterback's legs. That was a rule that existed before then. It just wasn't being focused on and wasn't being enforced. And just in general, there was not this heightened awareness of protecting quarterbacks that began after 2008, where not only did they start being much more protective of the quarterbacks in terms of not allowing you to hit them in the head, not allowing you to hit them below the waist or below the knee. They also, after that season, started to protect the receivers as well, and they instituted the rules where you can't, there's no more helmet-to-helmet, defenseless receivers. All of this stuff happened around the same time. And once you have such a protected asset in quarterback, that's what changes the allocation of funds, not necessarily the game plan. You know what I'm saying? Because the Titans' game plan is to give the ball to Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill throw the ball if we absolutely need you to. But Ryan Tannehill still gets paid way more than Derrick Henry. And the reason for that is because he's protected. If you go into a season, or you go into, if GM is deciding what to pay each player and allocating resources, you can feel more comfortable. Forget about how you feel about the quarterback in terms of how skilled they are. You can feel at least more comfortable knowing if I pay Daniel Jones, I have him being protected by the referees on my side. My asset is being almost insured by the rules that were instituted after Tom Brady went down, and just the way that the view of protecting the quarterback and the emphasis on protecting the quarterback that began after Tom Brady went down, it's like an insurance policy for that asset. And that also kind of bled out to some of the receivers in terms of how the receivers get protected, because you can't blow somebody up over the middle anymore. Meanwhile, none of those protections, none of that insurance has translated to the running back at all. So you have no type of guarantees that even if you have, that's the unfortunate thing about Saquon, is that he's special and he's great, but special and great don't mean you're not going to get hurt. And at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to, is that we've already seen him be hurt before. He's already missed significant time due to injury. Not saying that that's his fault, but that is a statement of fact. And the fact that now these assets in terms of the quarterbacks are not only so important to the game, but they're also essentially, de facto have an insurance policy that that the refs are not going to let them get killed the way that they'll let a running back get killed. That's the reason why it just doesn't make sense to invest in that asset, especially when the prime of that specific position. Because that's the thing. It's like when you pay a quarterback, you can assume that if you pay a quarterback after their rookie deal, when they're in their early 20s, that they're on the ascent. They're getting better. You know what I mean? For the most part.
Because that's a position that's more conducive to learning on the job and taking what you learn and using that to your benefit down the line.
Exactly. Whereas with running backs, I think the league has caught up to the idea that their physical prime happens to coincide beautifully with when they're on their rookie deal, after they've taken, they've accumulated the physical hits and punishments on their body throughout their rookie deal. What would be the reason to pay them as they're exiting their prime and they are not a protected asset?
It's as if a company discovered that an intern could run the company just as efficiently as a CEO.
Exactly. Yes.
Such a great. That's one of the better takes I've ever heard in my life, actually.
So that is why I say, obviously I'm kidding around when I say it's Tom Brady's fault.
No, you could be kidding on a square.
Yes, but going like it is very much, there's a very clear line if you look at the salaries and the percentage of the salary cap that gets allocated to quarterbacks. There is a very obvious line of demarcation after 2008 when Brady got hurt, and just it seemed as though the entire way that the league, from a officiating standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, honed in on quarterbacks, and they became it's funny because it's unfortunate that Word Life is not here, because he's the one that he has talked a lot about how he almost pushes back. He has pushed back at times, at least to me, when I've said like quarterbacks are the only thing that matters. Like, he doesn't want to accept that as the current NFL reality. He wants to still, have some value in like running the ball and physicality and that type of thing, and it shouldn't be just one position. But this is what it is. Like, and this Saquon Barkley situation, to a certain degree, really kind of highlights that, and the idea that that's why everybody has an opinion on it, because everybody who watches the NFL can see that Saquon Barkley is a special talent at running back and is one of the best in the league. And there, people are having trouble understanding why he can't, why he's not being valued the way that you think he should be.
I have a counter take for that.
Let's hear.
Has any player in NFL history benefited more from those rule changes and being injured than Tom Brady?
No, of course not.
Because just think about at every turn. Like you said, well, first of all, like that you said about him getting injured, and the other rules that were on being supposed to be being enforced. Think about the tuck rule. So just think about how much Tom Brady has benefited from officiating.
Yeah, and
because
benefited and shaped the league.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's almost like it's almost as if he were almost like a plant to like an experiment. You know what I'm saying? Almost like to see, okay, we got a sixth round pick that that keeps working hard and all this is boom, he wins a couple Super Bowls, boom, he gets injured, everything goes to shit, right?
Yeah.
He takes less, so he's like the model quarterback. He takes less so you could build the team up around him. But what are you building? The team that you're building around him, what do they use the money that they take away? what was his big thing? That instead of giving me weapons, no, they used that money for defense or other things that that were used to the benefit of the game plan that Bill Belichick implemented in all of his years. So on top of that, like obviously, he the thing with the referees and all that, he'll get all the calls and all that stuff. But also he benefited from like the overall game plans. He benefited because Bill Belichick was smart enough to realize that, maybe you don't need the superstar. You don't need the superstar wide receiver. You don't need the superstar running back because of the rules and because you have Tom Brady, who's giving you a discount. Because of the and because of the rules, that he's going to stay upright, and that with the wide receivers having more space, they can't be touched as much, they can't be roughed up. You don't need you don't need the superstar. You just need somebody who can get some separation. You need running backs that could just like run at it, pound 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 pound. But you need to allocate a lot of those funds on defense because anybody can get in front of a wide receiver, but only a skilled cornerback has the skill set to be able to not get a penalty on a call when they're playing the wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? That the offensive linemen, like you have to be able to get edge defenders or defensive players that know what to do in every situation, that know how not to get a holding call, how not to get hands to the face, roughing the quarterback, all that stuff. So it's like you're because that's one of the things that the Patriots always had was smart defensive players.
Yeah,
that's why they have a type. They don't sign flashy free agent defensive players. They sign Judon from the Ravens. You know what I'm saying? Like an older player who's not flashy, who didn't have the super high sack numbers, but why? They have a type. They know what they need. They pay well on defense. Stephon Gilmore. I know that they used to cut players all the time when they outdid their usefulness on the defensive side, but they always stack up on defense. They always stack up. They always pay. They always get free agents on defense. On offense, it's a totally different game. You know what I'm saying? That's why every time they sign an offensive player, for the most part, I want to say it's pretty much a bust. Think about all the money that they've spent on all the wide receivers, all the draft picks that they spent on wide receivers, on the tight ends and all that. It never really pans out. But when you spend your money on defense and you know what you're looking for, it's easier to build that to build the team around the quarterback. The only thing now is that they're seeing that without the quarterback, it's not as easy. So that's the other thing that I was going to counter to in terms of like all these other teams that think that they have Tom Brady and operate as if they do have Tom Brady when they don't, because Tom Brady operated at a level where he was worth more than what he was getting paid. So that that money was allocated to the outside skill players that he used to his benefit. When now you have players being paid more than what they're actually capable of contributing on an offense, that's when you're going to see the deficit and overpaid quarterbacks. When you pay Daniel Jones $40 million and then Saquon Barkley doesn't get paid because he's not quote unquote important enough. But that doesn't correlate when you attach numbers in terms of usage, in terms of like the actual yards and the production. It doesn't correlate, and it doesn't correlate going forward because like Daniel Jones is getting paid for a projection that that honestly isn't really there. Saquon Barkley is getting paid for is his lack of pay is for the assumption of the importance that he's shown, but lack of importance in what the perception is, because he's way more important than what he's getting. Like the money doesn't correlate. It's all about projections and assumptions. It's projections when it comes to quarterbacks that they're always going to keep getting better, but it's assumptions when it comes to some of the running back position, because you're assuming that his production that he's already shown is only going to go down.
Yeah, but
so it's like their charts, both of their charts are in the opposite directions when it doesn't make sense what the points are on the axis.
Yes, but the only thing that you also need to consider is it's not only projecting the individuals, like it's not just projecting Daniel Jones and projecting Saquon Barkley. Specifically, especially for Saquon Barkley, I don't think it's not just projecting what he's going to do and what he's going to be. It's projecting what the next guy that you're going to replace him with is going to be, and what the difference is there, right? Because if they feel like Daniel Jones is good enough that we project him to be whatever. We know what he did last year. We're happy with what he did last year. And we're thinking that he can do better next year, with another year in our system and adding more weapons, et cetera, et cetera. And they looked at themselves, and this was the thing, this is the point that I was trying to make back when people were talking about how much Daniel Jones should or shouldn't get paid. The fact of the matter is that what are your options? What are your other options? What were they going to do? They weren't in a position to draft a quarterback, and it was either sign Daniel Jones or sign somebody who was going to probably be significantly worse. Whereas with Saquon Barkley, the options are limitless, because unfortunately, as special and as great as Saquon Barkley is, the drop-off from him into the next guy that you're going to find for a much cheaper price is not as much as the drop-off from Daniel Jones to whatever their second option would have been at quarterback going into the next season. That's a big factor into it.
Yeah, but when you think about it, like I said, it's an assumption. It's not like you said. You said, okay, another year in the system. They're projecting that Daniel Jones is going to get better. But then they're also projecting you can do the same projection for Saquon Barkley, right? But the assumption is the opposite. The assumption is it's like, he's going to be declining, and you don't pay running backs and that, but you're supposed to pay quarterbacks. But honestly, like, all right, I know that there's the caveat of somebody like Dalvin Cook and let's say Kareem Hunt being on the market. It kind of shapes this argument a little bit differently, but if you pay Daniel Jones $40 million, what percentage can you get from Teddy Bridgewater at $4 million? What can you project his numbers to be like? Think about, like, okay, what's that, tenfold? So there's no way that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be outplayed tenfold at his value at, let's say, $4 million that at Daniel Jones. So it's all about picking and choosing what you want to believe in. And currently, it's the running backs that are taking the brunt of that assumption and of that a surplus of running back talent. But one of the other things that I was going to say when you were saying about the quarterback position and everything like that, what happens when these teams don't need a quarterback anymore because they don't get hurt? and they're on the teams for 10, 12 years.
What do you mean?
Let's say two or three, let's say two of these quarterbacks pan out. Let's say CJ Stroud and Bryce Young pan out. That's two less teams that need quarterbacks, right? I mean, it's going to get to a point where these quarterbacks, they play in the league for 15, in some cases, 20 years. Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and a couple others. At what point does it catch up to where there's more, that there's more need for, other positions than there are for quarterbacks? Because if these quarterbacks are staying healthy for all of these years, at some point, obviously it hasn't happened yet, but like, let's say Anthony Richardson is good too. So that's three teams less that need a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's all about who you like, the importance of, or the value that you're going to attach to the projection that you have for these quarterbacks. At some point, some of these quarterbacks, that money's not going to make sense when it comes to like the production, unless obviously you're Patrick Mahomes, when you're making a $4 million wide receiver play like an $8 million wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like Daniel Jones to date, you can argue, he hasn't elevated anybody around him. If anything, he's benefited from Saquon Barkley being that threat in the backfield, and has elevated Daniel Jones's value. So it's all about picking and choosing who you want to assign the value with, and who is the, like how Mike Tannenbaum likes to say, the force multiplier. Who's making who better? And you can argue, like in the Chiefs case, Patrick Mahomes is making the people around him better. But in Daniel Jones' case, Saquon Barkley, you can argue, was made him better. But the benefit doesn't go both ways.
It's tough because I agree that I don't think that it. I mean, I guess maybe some people will question it, but I don't question that Saquon Barkley's skill and special talent made things easier for Daniel Jones last year for sure. But when you say Teddy Bridgewater, you think Teddy Bridgewater and Daniel Jones are the same guy?
No. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, but you're saying
they're nowhere close.
Okay, but
But what I'm saying is that, like I said, like general managers pick and choose where it's like analytics as a whole.
If you're Giants GM, you'd rather go with Barkley and Bridgewater, or Jones and no Barkley?
No, but that.
I'm asking.
No. But listen, my overall point is that obviously this is part of the general manager. It's part of their job. What lane to choose? Because like for the same thing with analytics, you can give me 10 numbers that make your argument, and I can give you 10 numbers that go counter to your argument. It's all about what numbers you pick, you choose, that you believe in, what line of thinking you align yourself with. So, but when you think about like, well, you said the number, like let's say like Daniel Jones with the 40 million, right? And so 40 million on his own, but let's say somebody like Teddy Bridgewater. I'm just, because I just happen to know that he's a free agent, not because I happen to think that whatever the case is that he's the guy who can do this. But DeAndre Hopkins, he got signed for 12 million. There's say let's say $6 million for Dalvin Cook, right? Um, Kareem Hunt, let's say he gets $5 million as well, and then let's assign 6 million to Teddy Bridge. Let's assign 8 million to Teddy Bridgewater, 12 to DeAndre Hopkins, and 5 to Kareem Hunt and Dalvin Cook. Would that offense? What offense scares you more? Hopkins, Kareem Hunt, Cook, and Teddy Bridgewater, or Daniel Jones and Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make the argument.
But are you talking about for one season, or are you talking about giving everybody 5-year deals?
No. Okay. See, but that's what I'm saying. It's like
because that's the issue. If it was just everybody getting 1-year deals, putting together a team for a 1 year or one time, then it's different. But with the Giants, they went into this offseason with not a lot of options at quarterback aside from Daniel Jones for the long term. If they wanted to just sign Teddy Bridgewater or some other free agent quarterback, then I suppose they could have done that. But I think they like Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is just a hypothetical because obviously the long term thing is in play. But my overall
tell you the truth,
point,
the issue is that's why I say for one season, because for me, for one season, I'd rather have Saquon at 15 mil than Dalvin Cook and Kareem Hunt at 5 apiece.
Yeah, no, but that's what my main issue is of the path that you want to take, and also that the assumption, because like, for example, how much more money do you think that Daniel Jones was going to be able to make himself if they put him on the franchise tag and then signed Saquon to a longer term deal? You know what I'm saying? Like,
but I don't think that one thing has anything to do with the other. I don't think Daniel Jones is signing and his contract. I mean, I brought up Daniel Jones because he was the 10th paid quarterback, and that just fit in terms of what I was pointing out in terms of the 10th highest paid. Just to find something, not necessarily the top of the echelon players, but somewhere kind of good but not great, and he just happened to fit into 10th. But I think if they would have let Daniel Jones go and not signed him and signed Teddy Bridgewater for $5 million, I don't think it would have had any impact on Saquon Barkley's negotiations. I think
because that's my overall point. It's all about what you choose to believe in, your school of thought, like who you like, who your mentor was and all that stuff. Let's say Daniel Jones was not that good of an example because of the his age and everything like that. But let's switch that over and say let's say Kirk Cousins and the money that he's making, and let's put all those weapons, all the money that's allocated to Kirk Cousins, let's give it to the weapons and build around Teddy Bridgewater. Now, we're talking about a similar age.
You're saying in Minnesota? But they would be Minnesota. Minnesota ironically had Teddy Bridgewater.
No. Yeah, that's why I forgot to mention it, but that's like why it popped into my head. But just think about it that way. Like, on the surface, I think these teams think about too much about like what they're gonna say, because you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you get rid of Kirk Cousins, it's gonna be a big deal because he's a middle to upper. He's in that let's say 10 is generous, but 10 to 18 range in terms of quarterbacks. Yeah, it's going to be a big deal because quarterbacks don't, they don't generally come loose. But like, would your expectations be that much different if it were Teddy Bridgewater to Kirk Cousins and they were able to sign like a couple other players and give the long term deals to Justin Jefferson and all that? And they also had to get rid of a bunch of defensive edge players because of cap constrictions and all that stuff. But let's use him as a better example. Well, what do you think?
What do I think? Would I rather have Kirk Cousins at his number or Teddy Bridgewater at a lower number and add free agents?
Yeah, and let's say, for example, you're able to keep Dalvin Cook.
But that's not the situation, though.
What do you mean? This is all hypothetical. That's what I'm saying. It's like, because my overall point isn't that they're not, when it comes to quarterbacks, they're not attaching the actual value to the quarterbacks, like, and their performance.
But here's the thing, that you actually made Kirk Cousins is actually the perfect example, because they paid Kirk Cousins because they don't want Teddy Bridgewater. They feel better about having Kirk Cousins locked up. And by locking up and keeping Kirk Cousins, they let Stephon Diggs go. And we don't even remember Stephon Diggs because they replaced him like that with somebody better. Like, that's the whole point, is that you're not going to replace Kirk Cousins as easily as you very quickly replace Stephon Diggs. Like, Stephon Diggs was great, and they let him go, and they brought in somebody better, and they just kept it moving. They brought in somebody better for cheaper, and you can't do that at the quarterback position. You're not going to bring in somebody better and cheaper like that.
Okay, but let's use because it just that case, that's a perfect case to use in this example. In that same draft year, they traded Stephon Diggs for the other thing is Stephon Diggs has other things that make his situation untenable. We're seeing that in Buffalo now, but let's just use his play, on-field play only. Let's say they keep Stephon Diggs, keep that pick, and instead of and let's say they sign other players or whatever, and instead of using or even so let's say even if they trade that pick or they got the pick or whatever, in that same draft, Jalen Hurts was selected in the second round.
Yeah, that's fine, but Jalen Hurts wasn't Jalen Hurts until last year. Nobody thought Jalen Hurts was going to be an MVP candidate.
But my point is, like,
there's far less Jalen Hurts walking around than there are Justin Jeffersons.
But nobody thought that Justin Jefferson wouldn't have lasted to the, I think it was 17th pick. If they thought, no, it wasn't 17th. I think it was 21st pick. If they thought that Justin Jefferson was going to be who he is. It's all about the projection. I'm pretty sure the Buffalo Bills wouldn't have traded for Stephon Diggs if they knew that they could get Justin Jefferson. They would have had Justin Jefferson. Just think about how
that's fine. But you play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. But the whole point is that it's much more likely that you woulda, coulda found a Justin Jefferson in the first round or somebody who's going to be a good receiver in the draft than you're going to find a competent quarterback. Like, that's where the value is that you can lose a Diggs and replace him with a Justin Jefferson. That is a much more realistic, likely scenario to happen than finding a quality, competent quarterback. They're just harder to find.
I understand completely, but my point is, it's like it just depends on what what you think you're good at, or what a front office thinks it's good at. It doesn't. My point is that quarterbacks is looked at completely different at every as opposed to every other position. The the way that they're looked at, the way the value is attached, is totally different, and it sucks because like everybody else gets the shaft because of what they have to do at the quarterback position. And a lot of that, what they have to do at the quarterback positions, has nothing to do with the actual skill level or production that they've put forth, as opposed to when the other positions have actually put that production forth. They're not compensated, even though their value, the value that they should be attached to the production, matches a much higher number than they're willing to give.
But the problem is you keep attaching the value to the production. The value is not only the production. The value is the drop off to the next guy. The value is is in your options scared as well. It's not just in the production. You don't get paid for just the production. You get paid for the drop off in value to the next guy. You know what I'm saying? So like that's really where the problem lies, is that so many of these coaches and GMs, and I hate to say it, but it's rightfully so, like so many of them are afraid of what the next quarterback may or may not be. And I can't blame them, because the quarterback position is tough. Like we've seen guys that have had promise and have not made it, and you know what I'm saying. There's not a lot of quarterbacks just out there to be picked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, speaking of Kirk Cousins, Minnesota's gonna be done with Kirk Cousins pretty soon if he doesn't take them to the next step. You know what I'm saying? So it's like even his production and even he's not gonna be good enough. So they'll have to pay somebody else. You know what I mean? Or if they have a high draft pick, then they're going to have to try something different. But it's like they're always going to be afraid. That was the thing with the Giants, was that, and it's hard to kind of do it on a year-by-year basis, because all of these contracts are multiple years. So it's like the Giants were faced with a decision where they were going to have to be like, coming off of a playoff year, Are we gonna roll the dice and start with a new quarterback, or will we rather roll the dice and start with a new running back? You know what I mean? Production be damned. Obviously, Saquon Barkley was better at being running back last year than Daniel Jones was at being quarterback. I don't think anybody would argue that. It's very obvious, and I think that their careers may go that way. I think Saquon Barkley, for the rest of his career, when it's all said and done, it may very well be likely that he will have been a better running back than Daniel Jones was a quarterback. But at the end of the day, the Giants were not faced with this hypothetical. They were faced with a very real situation going into this offseason, and they had to face not only the projections, not only the production, but the options. That's really what paints the picture, is really what the options were. Do we feel good enough about Daniel Jones that we're going to make him the franchise guy and we're going to roll with him for however many years? And if that's what we're going to do, the price is what the price is for a franchise quarterback, not a 1-year prove it deal, not a Teddy Bridgewater, a hybrid backup type of situation. They decided they were going to pay Daniel Jones. They had to pay him as a multi-year franchise quarterback, and that was a decision that they had to make this offseason with the options that were available to them this offseason. You know what I'm saying? And every different offseason is going to be different options when it comes to the quarterback position. Pure example, look, when it came to the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers' situation wouldn't have come about, you'd be looking at Zach Wilson coming into another year and getting another shot, because that would have been the option. Right, Zach Wilson may have ended up getting an extension after next year. We don't know how it would have played out. but they
Yeah,
they had the option
it's just
of they
crazy.
had the option of Aaron Rodgers, so that was a better option for them. Like the Giants, their options were what the options were. They weren't really in a position to draft, and they had to decide: do we feel good enough about what Daniel Jones did last year, what he did last year, and his production, like it commands the price that it commands. And what do we want to do? Do we want to move forward with him at the price it's going to cost? Or do we want to start over at the quarterback position with the options that we have available and focus on keeping Saquon Barkley? That's the thing, is that at the end of the day, when it comes to running backs and receivers to a certain degree, the options are always there to a certain degree. You know what I mean? The drop off is not going to be like, you can't compete. If you don't re-sign Daniel Jones, you can't really have a competitive season. You can't look at having a competitive season if you're going to have some bum
or
at
be confident
quarterback.
in having one.
Yeah, like I think that's ultimately what it comes down to is like you said, it depends on what kind of path that they want to take. But the paths that they choose, to a large degree, are dictated more by the options available than the production. Because you could have looked at Zach Wilson and you could have said, do we want to really bring in Aaron Rodgers at all this price when we invested a pick in Zach Wilson? We haven't really given him a full shot to see what he's got. We knew he was going to take time to develop, whatever. And they could have looked at it that way, right? They could have been like, yo, we don't want to go, we want to see what this kid has. Like, this is, we have him on a good deal. We could put pieces around him. We can invest the money elsewhere that we're going to pay Rodgers, right? They could have looked at it that way. They had an asset and they just looked at it as like, yo, these are our options, and we're going to go down the path of securing the quarterback position on a limited term basis, and we're going to go for it now. And that's kind of like what the Jets did in a different type of way. They could have looked at it like, we're going to start over and we're going to try to, get a cheap rental quarterback and try to put pieces around him and see how it goes. But, they decided that they felt better about the option of looking at Daniel Jones long term and locking him up, and, and then, let the chips fall as they may, and then, work from there out. And I just feel like these teams just look at it as it's just so much harder to replace a quarterback, even a mediocre quarterback. I mean, look at the crazy deal that the Vikings had to give Kirk Cousins when they first brought him in. That deal was crazy. Everybody was looking at that deal like, this is insane. How are they paying Kirk Cousins? He's a fine quarterback, but he's just competent. You know what I mean? And like, competency at quarterback has more value than excellency at running back. That's really what it comes down to. You know what I'm saying? Because you can get closer to good production from a mediocre running back than you can from a mediocre quarterback. A mediocre quarterback has such a low ceiling, at least from the perception of the GMs. And I mean, I agree. That's the options that they go with, I guess.
I don't know. It's just crazy. At the end of the day, it's like.
But I know more about quarterbacks because I watched the Netflix documentary. So
yeah, I mean I know
everything about quarterbacks.
That's why I let you get the floor and have the final take, because I have not watched it yet.
And I know everything about Kirk Cousins too. I know more about Kirk Cousins than I want to know.
Yeah.
I mean,
including his lip situation.
I know he needs some chapstick, and I know that there was a funny Kirk Cousins observation I had from that shit. There were a lot of them. I probably should have wrote them down because
I don't know. It's just overall, it's just crazy to me that
his son is wearing like a bootleg jersey.
It's crazy to me, like the way they assign value to certain, and like who makes who better and all that. It just doesn't make, like I said, it doesn't make actual sense. It's just the projection and the train of thought that you live by. You know what I'm saying? It's like, It just doesn't make it just doesn't make sense. It's like, for example, especially like for a team like the Giants that fancy themselves that they're going to run the ball and all that, and then when it comes time to having one of the better running backs in the league,
But I don't know that
you,
that's what they're gonna do. I think that last year was a little bit of a mirage. Like I was, and I brought this up to you before, that I was shocked at the style of offense that Dable came in and ran, because based off of what I seen do in Buffalo, obviously they had a unique talent at quarterback in Buffalo at Josh Allen, but they seem to have no regard for the running back position and for the running game as a part of playing football. They just at the Buffalo, when Dable was there, seemed to have no interest in having a running game, that was in any way valuable or relevant. So when he came over and I seen Barkley getting all these carries and like he's the focal point of the offense, I was shocked. And based off of the way that they're seeming to allocate their resources, I don't see them doing that again this year. I'd see them saying, okay, Danny boy, we paid you, and now you better be the man.
well, I mean, that's part of the reason why I said, like, you know, they maybe they should have done is like take more weapons away from Daniel Jones, and put him on the franchise tag, and see if he is worthy of that. They had that available to them because um like for example, the example that you used for Buffalo.
But the
I mean,
problem is
the
that
reason the
you weren't gonna put weapons around Daniel Jones on 1 year deals. You would have had to
no,
invest
but
long term in these
my
weapons, and
overall
then when the franchise tag is up, then you got no quarterback.
my overall point is that, like, the reason that Josh Allen was a better running back than anybody the Bills had. So, you know what I'm saying? It made sense to have him run the ball more than the other running backs.
But was that by
That's
design?
not the case here. I think it just by trial and error. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But do you think that they wanted to run the ball, but they just didn't have the personnel to do it?
I mean, when you think about, like for example, think about like Dable. Maybe he knew that he was gonna he he's getting out of there. So I don't honestly, like, I don't care about um Josh Allen getting banged up. I'm gonna be here for a year or two and get out of here. Because that's what it seemed like they were trying to do with Daniel Jones in training camp and the beginning of the year, was pretty much run him into the ground and see what was good. Like if he could withstand the beat down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like, maybe this just means that they're getting away. I don't know. I don't know. Everybody's, you can attach cynicism to like anybody's way of thought. You don't really know what any of these coaches like are really thinking. At the end of the day, the only thing they're thinking about is winning, because winning is the only thing that sticks on their resume. If they win, they get promoted, they get head coaching opportunities. If they lose, they're going to get fired anyway. So I'm going to do the best. I don't care about the actual player running him into the ground. I have nothing to do with that. I got to look out for myself. And that's probably what they're going to do with Saquon. Saquon, this year, on this franchise tag, he's probably going to get run into the ground.
You think he's going to hold out or not play or whatever?
No, I don't think so. It doesn't seem like that's the type of dude that he is. And also, like,
he seemed ready to do it in that podcast interview.
Yeah, but there's already that recency. Like, how stupid would you look?
I think it'd be a big mistake.
How stupid would you look if you did the same thing as Le'Veon Bell and ended up the same way as Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah.
Apart from that, Le'Veon Bell did get his money. He did get his money. So let's not misconstrue that. Like,
but at the same time, he didn't really get his money, because he got his money, but if getting your money is getting a
He could have
dollar
been still
more than
getting
you were
money.
offered, like he played himself. Like he, not that it was a dollar more. He did get paid
No,
more money, but even he said it wasn't more. Like if you were talking about massive differences in
he might have
contracts,
still been under the contract. He might still been playing under that contract.
exactly. And it wasn't like they didn't offer him a respectable deal. He just knew he could get more somewhere else. And I don't begrudge him from going to get every dollar that he can, but there is a little bit of, I mean, it depends on how much you care about, football and like I know that Saquon Barkley has spoken about a lot of it is his comfort level with the Giants, and that he's from the area. He said he has a nice house. His family, blah 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 blah. Like how important is that to you? Like how important is it to you to from a legacy standpoint? How many years you want to play in the league? Does he want this to be his last contract? I don't know. Like I wonder if Le'Veon Bell in his decision making looked at that as being, this is going to be my last contract.
But I don't know. Just think about how, like, that's one of the other things that like pisses me off about the media and fans. They don't really, they go out of their way to avoid highlighting that. Like everybody complains about taxes. They complain about taxes, but when you get down to it, like Saquon Barkley is probably going to get $4.5 to $5 million for what he's going to do to his body this year, and that's just not fair.
You're saying after taxes?
After taxes, after whatever he spends on his, on his body to get ready for for the season, the recovery,
Yeah, but why isn't
fees.
it fair?
Well, because that's never the number that's used. When they say they offered him, they offered him $12 million. He should have taken it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what my point is. It's like, yeah, it sounds good. Oh, how come he didn't take $12 million? Well, because it's not $12 million. Because it's $6 million for taking a severe beating on your body. And a lot of the fans are like, they use that and they get angry at players like Saquon Barkley at positions like that are involved in, putting a physical toll on your body and on your lifespan and all that. And they use the flashy number up top. That's not really the number that they're getting. So you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I mean, obviously that's the same way and everything.
Yeah,
that's how they get us to play the lottery and everything like that.
Even if they use the lesser number, they don't give a shit. They would still view it. Even if it was 5 million as opposed to 10, they would still say he should destroy his body for $5 million.
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
if I had the chance.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the level of vitriol gets taken up a notch based on how much money. That's the reason that every time Francisco Lindor is in a funk, he gets shitted on, but a whole bunch of other players don't get shitted on because he's making $34 million. I'll preface this with saying it's still a lot of money for in that case, in that example. But when I'm saying, like, people use the level of vitriol that they put forth against a player based on how much money their performance and how much money they get. So it's like when people get on the radio and say he's getting paid $12 million to carry the ball for a year. You know what I'm saying? No, it's not.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
But I just feel like people say that. I feel like once you get into the millions, people just their eyes glaze over and they don't know the difference between 5 and 10 and 15 million. Like if Saquon Barkley was getting paid $5 million, they would say he's getting paid $5 million to carry the ball. They don't. You think it's more intense for 10?
You say that, but it's the same reason like people won't play the lottery or Powerball when it's at $200 million, but they'll play it when it's at $900 million or $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like people are stupid in general, and they, but when there's key numbers like when double digits, triple digits. It's like they're like little they're like milestones. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, 5 million, it's just 5 million times five, but 10 million, that's 10 times a million. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then like 100 and 200. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like little things like
Yeah,
that when you think about.
and the hatred and the evil gets a little gets ratcheted up a little bit more
Yeah, exactly.
every million that
Like
they can get mad at
max
you about.
vitriol,
Yeah,
vitriol
to
overload.
crank the notches up. Terrible. So what do you think is gonna happen? Do you think that you think he's just gonna report day one? Do you think he's gonna report sometime soon? You already
Um,
say you don't think he's gonna sit out.
he's gonna play it slow. I think he's a dude. He's a tough dude. He's from the area of the Bronx. He has like
Jeff fame.
boxers in his family. Like a tough grinder mentality. Pennsylvania. You know what I'm saying? He's not the type of dude that's gonna do that. And honestly, there's nothing he can do because the overall state of the running back position, it's like there's nobody else that's going to pay that money right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
all right, let me just get this money.
And the fucked up thing is even if they were, there's still nothing he could do because the CBA allows the Giants to franchise him, and even if there's somebody who's gonna pay him 15 mil to play next year, they're not gonna pay him 15 mil and give 2 draft picks. No way.
No, and honestly, that's the biggest bullshit. Like it's fucked up enough of the one franchise tag. That second franchise tag, man, that they need to get rid of that immediately, because it's like if you put that with the you put that, especially for running backs, you put that with the 5th-year option on a rookie quarterback in the first round. It's almost it almost like, I don't want to say it benefits you, but it benefits you instead of being like, let's say the 30th or the 32nd pick in the first round. For a running back, it probably benefits you to be a 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round pick, because you get to the 4th year or the 3rd year and you're eligible for a contract renegotiation. When you're a high draft pick, or let's say for that, because Saquon had the benefit of being the number 2 overall pick. A lot of these other running backs, let's say who's a recent running back that went in the first round but low. Shit, mine's escaping me. But let's say any running back that went in the, let's say like what's his name, CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the Chiefs. Obviously he's not a good example because he's not good, but he was the 32nd pick overall. If he was good, if he was like Saquon level good, that'd be even worse for him, because he'd be getting the lower amount on his rookie contract, get the 5th-year option, then have two franchise years that they could attach to the end of that. So you're looking at 7 years. You're looking at 7 years being tied up under a uncontrolled amount that you're not on the free market. Honestly.
Yeah. I think that, what if they made the franchise tag a 2-year guarantee instead of 1? I think that they should do something with the franchise tag to make it more punitive to the teams. Because right now, the way that the franchise tag is, it was designed to be a compromise. Like, we can't come to an agreement on the long-term deal, so we're gonna pay you max dollars, or whatever the percentage of the top 5 max dollars for 1 year. But that format only benefits the team. It doesn't benefit the player, especially a player at the position of running back at all. It's not really a compromise. You know what I mean? Like if the negotiation is, we want to pay, the player is asking for $10 million for 5 years and we only want to pay you $8 million for 5 years, the franchise tag having us pay you $10 million for 1 year is not a compromise. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not a compromise for the team. It's just the player getting screwed. So if
you're going to play like, okay, fine, we'll give you $10 million this year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, they're like rejoicing once
they make out like
pennies on paper.
Like if you force them to guarantee that for at minimum one extra year, then it's more of a decision. You know what I mean? Then it's more of a decision to make, because like obviously they can do the franchise tag for 2 years, but if on the first time you had to do it for 2 years, I think it would put a little bit more pressure on the team in terms of making the decision to extend.
But also look at the other fucked up thing about this that just popped up in my head as you're saying it. All of those franchise numbers were like the good thing about that was the assumption and basing it on the fact that, yeah, those numbers are just going to keep going up. But at the pace that we're going, that number, that franchise number for running backs.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is that
it's going to go down.
Exactly. That's the other thing, that specifically for running backs, when it comes to the franchise tag, the assumption was, like you said, that if the arc of the increase in salaries, that's why when a receiver or even a quarterback gets franchised, it's way different, because it's such a bigger payday because the contracts have increased so much, whereas the running back salary has just totally flatlined. So it's like, who gives a shit about, average of the top 5 of salary at that position, because it's not a big salary position.
Well, just think about it this way, like the overall purpose of that, the compromise and the overall purpose of that extra franchise year was almost supposed to be like a prove it year. But in the case of a running back, it's almost like it's an extra year that I get to suck out of your prime.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a year. It's just an additional year for us to bleed you dry.
Yeah, that's just overall just fucked up.
Yeah, it really needs to be renegotiated. And like I was saying to you, man, I don't know. Like I don't know. Like if it was me, if I was an NFL running back, I would be making all kinds of crazy deals. Like I would be trying to I would be calling up all the other running backs. Like, yo, we need to get together, and because obviously they can't form their own union, but I would be striking some type of deals, because it's like, if you can, because especially after looking at the numbers, I'm like, if I can clearly point, like the running back money has gone to the quarterbacks, like that's where it's gone. It's gone to the quarterbacks, and some of it has gone to the receivers, because even if you look at like highest paid receivers, 2008, top receiver and top running back, highest paid in the league, making essentially the exact same amount of money.
So ridiculous.
I mean, in 2008, you had Reggie Bush, highest paid running back, 9.1 mil. And you had Marvin Harrison, highest paid receiver, at 9.5. Whereas now, fast forward to 2023, you have highest paid running back is McCaffrey at 15. Highest paid receiver is Tyreek at double that.
Bro, Corey Davis is going to be paid more in the final year of his contract to be the Jets' 4th wide receiver than Saquon Barkley is going to get paid to be the number 1 weapon on the franchise tag for the Giants. This year, you don't even have to use historical comps. You don't have to bring up other numbers. Like, there's two teams that play in the 2 players that play in the same stadium. One is the fourth wide receiver option. He may be the 5th or 6th overall option. And he's going to get paid more than the number 1 option at the running back position for the team that plays in the same stadium. It's wild.
Yeah, nah, it's crazy. It is crazy. You know who's making more money than the highest paid running back this year? Hunter Renfrow. He's getting paid more. He's getting paid $16.5 million more than any running back in the league. That's all you need to know.
Hunter Renfrow, the baseball player, might be getting paid more.
Every baseball player is definitely getting paid more.
Every Hunter Renfrow is getting paid more than
Hunter Renfrow, the accountant in somewhere in St. Louis. He's getting paid.
Renfrow and Renfrow Accountants LLC.
Yo, for real. Even a guy named Renfrow with the last name Renfrow, who's a hunter, he's getting paid more. All right. Well, on that note, that's going to conclude the lifeless and wordless episode. I hope he's all right. I texted him. He didn't respond, but what can we do?
We'll talk Jets next week.
Jacksonville's a dangerous place. Next week, we still won't have had episode 1 of Hard Knocks yet. We'll have. That won't be. Damn, that's not for another 3 weeks, actually. Because when is the?
Hold on 1 second.
First episode of Hard Knocks.
Let me take a quick pee break and then we'll finish up.
What do you mean pee break? It's over. I just closed up the episode. Right. I'm about to log us off. Say goodbye to the people.
Bye, people. And hi, pee-pee.